Well, XCat, speaking of the new druid from the Ravnica book, why don't we delve into this and let's do a little bit of a study about what is in this book and what are some considerations for you as a player and as a DM. Now, I'm not going to go through things with a fine-tooth comb. A lot of this is fluff and setting and flavor, and we're going to be considering that at the end of the week when we make our campaign. Hey, D&Ms, welcome! Oh, you're in Fort Wayne? That's not that bad. It's like 2.5, 3 hours away, I think. I mean, I say that, right? Like, you wouldn't have to drive 2.5, 3 hours back, if you know. But, no, Fort Wayne isn't that far away, and I think we actually get some supplies out of Fort Wayne. Well, Nadpoo, we'll go over that. It's not exactly like Xanathar's. Yeah, Roger. Hey, Roger, by the way. It is more like Sword Coast, where it's a setting that gives you interesting options. So, let's take a look here. I mean, here, if you are going to be running in Ravnica, this first chapter is something you'll want to go over. You know, you may already be familiar if you've played Magic the Gathering, because certainly, I mean, Ravnica is probably the second most popular setting outside of, I guess, Dominaria, which is their sort of like Earth or their default world. But that Dominaria has been it was the core world for such a long time. So Ravnica, I think, is kind of taking over, being like a hub world, a magical world in Magic the Gathering from Dominaria. But you would want to get to know, well, what goes on there? What is the guild pact? Why are there guilds? What happens? What are Zibs and Xenos? By the way, it's gold and silver pieces and such. Character creation, we're going to be going through this. All right. Let me zoom in a little bit here. There we go. Human and elf, as per normal. And we have also Centaurs, Goblins, Loxodons, Minotaurs, Simic Hybrids, and Vedalken. You'll notice that the Viashino, which are a lizard people, did not make the jump from Unearthed Arcana into the official printed book. So that said, there is another race out there if you are willing to allow Unearthed Arcana at your tabletop. There is the Viashino who were presented in that playtest. Now, there are no new classes, but it does give you a primer in which classes would be more attracted to a particular guild because of the services they render. There are two subclass options: the Order Domain and the Circle of Spores Druid. And the Circle of Spores was Unearthed Arcana, and it has been made official through this book here. Using the lizard folk stat? Okay. Oh, thank you for that heads up, Echo. And it makes sense, right? If they seemed redundant, I actually hadn't compared lizard folk to what they offered in the Unearthed Arcana. But you know what? If you enjoy homebrewing, that is something else to consider. You don't always have to reinvent a race. You can either reskin a race or look at something that it just works, and maybe tweak one or two things or have it be a sub-race of some kind. But you don't always have to reinvent everything, especially if there's a lot of redundancies. So in this case, Lizard Folk and Viashino are going to be pretty comparable. Daly says, as I've already said, the Ravnica setting was something I have skeptical of, but have fallen in love with. And as far as the Viashino, they suggest, well, Echo Steel beat me to it. Got it. Guilds of Ravnica. Now, this is a lot more flavor for the setting. These are things for you to consider. What does it mean to be a part of the guild? And with that, There are 10 different backgrounds. So there are new backgrounds also, one for each of the guilds here. And various spells for them, and we'll come over to that as well. Sorry, I'm leaning because I moved my microphone so I can be more vocal, especially with my voice being a little weak as it is. And I am having to lean around my microphone because it's kind of, it's right in the way here. This is going to talk about some geography of the city. Well, of the 10th district even. Creating adventures, and we're going to go over that when we get to making the campaign. I don't want to spend a ton of time on setting when I really want to talk about players and player characters, because that's what we're going to focus on first. Treasures, including magic items. And you know what? Many of these, if not all of them, in some way you can include in a Forgotten Realms world, or in your own homebrew, if you don't want to stick to something that's already been published. Oh, yeah, you're getting the hardback? I completely understand. Having a hardback copy is hardback copy is nice. It's it's good and portable, and you can very easily reference things. Plus, hardback copies support your local game stores. Wink, wink. Oh, Dark Wolf. Well, hey, pass along, tell Kitty that, we're here also, and are willing to offer some, conversation or support or whatnot, in order to help overcome whatever she's facing right now, Dark Wolf. Well, Spillheart, if you check out the Eberron supplement, they have shifters, and so that would, I think that'd scratch that itch. Yes, Daily, you should have some hardback books coming soon. All right, so we have treasures in here that you can incorporate. Now, obviously, they're going to fit very well in this campaign, which, when we did review Eberron, remember, Eberron as a campaign setting has some different legal and cultural foundations than kind of generic Faerun, Forgotten Realms, or maybe even your own homebrew setting. So when we look at, I guess, power levels or items or spells or backgrounds, some of these can be very either disjointed to your normal, quote-unquote, perception of D&D, or they're going to seem over or underpowered because of how you're running your game at your tabletop. And so, what I was talking about earlier with that whole changeling defense and how that impacted future campaigns. Remember that, if you're going to adopt some new information and some new magic spells or classes or subclasses in this case, hey, take your time with it and let the effects ripple through your world in a convenient fashion. Yeah, the Dragon Marked houses. We made Dragon Marks, and in fact, even aberrant Dragon Mark characters, too. And Dragon Marks can seem, they're kind of a sub-race in and of themselves. If you're a halfling with a Dragon Mark, you sort of lose your Stout or your Lightfoot classification. You're just a Dragon Marked halfling, at least, how that was set up. And so remember that we're discussing things in the context of Ravnica. We're comparing them externally to generic 5th edition D&D. So just bear that in mind as a continual little asterisk for a footnote. There is an awesome bestiary in this book. If you're looking for some cool monsters, this book has some cool monsters in it. And these monsters, well, if you've played Magic, you're gonna remember. You're probably gonna remember quite a few of them. But you can still apply them. You know, just reskin them, or just don't call it. A Simic Sky Swallower. You know, call it whatever, a Cloud Leviathan or something in your own homebrew world. Funny, hey, welcome back. Funny, I hope that you enjoyed our show last night, and now we're in workshop mode. You know, we play on Tuesdays, and now, hey, you know, you're in class. Get your books out. If you don't have it, that's fine, because I keep the presentation up here. A sky noodle. Yes, they are sky noodles. Dangerous sky noodles at that. They are flying nope ropes. And then there are various named NPCs that are very thematic to the setting, but you can take the concepts and put them elsewhere if you wish. Now, I really super de-duper like this last part of sidebars, because this is awesome reference within reference. If you're looking for just like a quick reference point of something, check, you know, this is well worth looking at as well. And I appreciate that they put that in there. Pneumonica says, I am from the dust returned. Now, cry havoc, and let's slip the sky noodles of war. Agent of Chaos. Not Chaos. Agent of Chaos, welcome. None of the extras? Well, funny, we are going to be delving into the player's handbook later. So if you want to prepare for tonight's... I say it tongue-in-cheek. I have taught a college class before, but, you know, so you can open to Chapter 4. Well, actually, no. Actually, don't, because we're going to be using a Ravnica background. So I guess have it handy for whatever class we end up rolling up. Yes, Roger. Do I still have that link? I do. So if for all of you out there, remember that there is an errata that was put out, and this is going to catch your player's handbook up with what was released in the slightly, you know, the slightly reformatted or re-edited gift set of the core rulebooks. So make sure you follow that link, and I put it in our Discord as well. And you can reference it. You can print it out and slip it into your book if you want. Now, a lot of these might not make a tremendous change, but it is well worth noting. You know, it look... for instance, let's see. New spell slots for a warlock. The following text has been appended to the first sentence to cast your warlock spells of 1st through 5th level. Thunderwave has been changed to Witch Bolt. So this is the official errata. Now, if your group chooses to play using the old core rulebooks, then make sure you have this conversation. Or, if you are a DM and you want everyone to be on the same page, I would suggest that you print this out or make this available to your players. You know, you take the initiative as the DM, make sure they're aware of it, and give them time, if not the material themselves, to understand it and to adapt it into their character if you're switching or you're going to be playing with these slightly tweaked or reworked rules. XCat, I haven't taken a look at this yet, so I can't tell you. I can't tell you for sure. Oh, this is a game changer. So you'll have to go to that link and take a look for yourself, because it's providing you a page reference everywhere on it. So it will hopefully be, it'll be easy to reference what has changed. I don't think you have to rethink everything, Funny. I haven't seen this causing, you know, some sort of poo storm of epic proportions in various online sites or whatnot. But this is going to bring a normal PHB up to the touched upon text of the gift set books that have just recently been released. I mean, a couple things here. So mass heal, mass cure wounds. This spell's school is evocation, not conjuration. Will that affect something that you do if you're going multi-class wizard and cleric? Maybe. And if so, talk to your DM and say, hey, for this game, can we keep it what it was before? Maybe your DM says, yeah, it's been working out. I don't have a problem with that. Revivify. The spell school is necromancy, not conjuration. Let's see. Something... well, Dark Wolf, if you're still listening kind of in the background, I know you recently took slow for Noralai. You know, so if you have a spell in particular, in the final paragraph, at the end of its turn is now at the end of its turns. Is that a big game changer for you and how you want to use the spell? Maybe not. Maybe it's how you've been playing it, but now the words are more specific and they're matching what you've been doing this whole time. Unseen Servant, in the first sentence, Shapeless Force is now Shapeless Medium Force. Have you always been playing with a medium-sized invisible butler as your Unseen Servant? Nothing's changed. This has just been a clarification. Have I worked on homebrew content before? Yes. Mucho content. Here on the channel, on my own to the side for a side project I continually hint at, but I've not really revealed much about yet. And even what you see on Tuesdays, that was a homebrew world that we made up. And honestly, when we make our campaigns and we do other workshop stuff, we might insert some homebrew in there as well. In fact, funny, if you do make your way over to our Discord, if you check out our... oh, and there's XCat's dungeon that he's drawing. Oh, that, you know what? XCat, that works really well, actually. And because you can also put a grid over top that, too, in Wonder Draft. But funny, if you come over here to past content, you see the 3.5 floppy? Yeah, what's that, right? And you click on that. This has the content that we've made in the past, so that you could just download it if you want. And if you want to see us make that content, you can watch the video that's right there. And so if you want a lot of homebrew stuff, in fact, up here, I mean, there's campaigns, there's monsters and spells, there's magic items. We spent a whole week making magic items. And so you can download that stuff. Magic items, sentient and cursed, magic items, rare and very rare. All that stuff is here. We made a brewing domain as part of our Oktoberfest week. And so maybe you want to use that as a homebrew in your own world. You want a brewer cleric. You can use that content if you'd like. It's not official, it is homebrew, but we do a lot of that here. And you know what? It's accessible to you as a thank you for being a part of the community. Echo says gnomes now have 7 toes. I'll have to tell Bright about that then. I thought I had a cat in here. Oh, there's one. What are you looking for? Let me catch back up here. Roger Twine 3.5. You start a grapple and the DM makes everyone die. XCat, I had a peek, but not read it all from what I saw. It was mostly semantic updates. Yeah, a lot of it is just clarification of text. Daily, the majority is clarifications and slight word and phrasing adjustments. Most groups will not see a major change. The disintegration spell rewrite was well done. Yeah, so if any of you do see something that might be, you know, a major change or something to consider, that's bigger than just a little word tweak here or there, please shout it out here, because I haven't gone through that text in order to tell you. Do you think the Storm Herald Primal Path would be good for my Dragonborn Barbarian Pirate? I am not familiar with that Primal Path, Roxy. So I can't tell you personally if that would be good or not. Hey, Derek, welcome. Derek, while we are discussing Ravnica, the new Errata was brought up. And I don't know how much might affect you as your warlock, but for Pact of the Tome, as well as a few other things here, you may want to review it, because what we'll do is, as a Tuesday group, we'll talk about if any of the errata affects your characters and how we wish to implement that for future Tuesday games. So for any of you just joining, I'll drop that one more time so you can take a look at it. All right, so let's shrink that back up, and let's get back to what we have here. So this is an overview of the book. There's a lot of good content in here. It is self-contained. You can run an entire campaign in a world, and it exists. It has an economy. It has a religion. It has culture. It has all of this just out of this book. If you wish, you can cherry-pick elements from it to insert into a Forgotten Realms campaign or your own homebrew setting. Just make sure you remember that what's in here was meant to be in here for Ravnica. Not that it's... I don't think anything in here really breaks the game. I don't think Circle of Spores Druid suddenly is hands down going to be the best Druid ever, and no one is going to play another type of Druid. But there just might be some wonky things that work really well inside of Ravnica that might be niche in your own campaign setting. Can I ask an honest question? What is the purpose of a warlock? Echo Steel says Eldritch Blast, that is all. Well, it is more than just that, Echo. Come on now. A warlock is a servant of a patron. In its own way, it's almost, it is kind of similar to what a cleric does on behalf of a deity or some sort of divine patron. In this case, a warlock is granted powers maybe a little bit more selectively. A warlock is not a channeler of a great power, but an agent of a great power. Arguably more freelance than what a cleric can be. Has a lot more maybe flexibility or moral discretion, as they are still granted powers similar to a cleric, but the powers are more secular, I suppose. You're not necessarily under a moral imperative to help or harm people, so that they fill an interesting role in a party. That if you want to be an investigator, or you want to be, I don't know, warlock is kind of like half sorcerer, half cleric, right? You do cast off charisma. It's the force of your personality, and you just have these inborn powers, these invocations. So you become a magical agent. You become, in your own way, I would argue, like a magical creature because of these invocations that are distilled into you. Whereas, you know, maybe being a cleric, it might make you more godly in a sense, but you may never necessarily be a god yourself. Here, as a warlock, I mean, you're taking on aspects of your patron very directly. Because your patron is the one that is giving you these powers. And can, you know, enhance or revoke or do whatever according to that patron's will. Magic sugar daddies? Echo, that's not a bad way of putting it, actually. You find warlocks to be a jack of all trades more than a bard. That's a very interesting statement. I mean, maybe I'm looking at things through a very stereotypical lens, funny. Warlocks will always outdo barbarians in strength and athletics. That's right, Jade the Swole. If you saw some art in there, and if you were watching the Tuesday game, you'll know that a tome-packed Gulak can absolutely manhandle a vampiric silver dragonborn barbarian. Oh, I get what you're saying then, funny. I'm picking up what you're putting down. All right. What I want to focus on here is let's get into Chapter 1 for character creation. We're going to review this, and then we'll take a break and come back and we'll make a character following this kind of the formula that we're exploring here. By the way, lots of, here we go, currencies. Languages, by the way. The languages that are spoken in Ravnica. All right. Chapter 2 describes the 10 guilds of Ravnica in detail. How you decide what guild you want, or how do you decide what guild you want to belong to? You can choose one of the approaches. There's a questionnaire, and we can go over that. Now, we're going to roll randomly, because we believe in just opening ourselves up to that. Oh, hey, Coffee Cat, welcome. Oh, Demir for life. Well, we might roll up a Demir, Derek. It doesn't take a Gulak to take down a barbarian. I could do the same with a kindergarten spelling test and a stick of deodorant. Oh, the flowchart? Yeah, I very much agree here. So, I mean, here's... If you want to contemplate everything, you can go through this step, but choosing a guild is going to be important for the characters we build. You can have a guildless character. Now, for the characters we're going to be making for this party, we already made 2 guildless characters. And we're going to be bringing them back from the session where we made Winifred, Malicia here, the Toxic Ray, and Byra Vern, Memory Fade, as their anti-hero names are. They're guildless. We're going to review them, and we're going to incorporate them into the party. So we will make some guild characters, and we're going to have Winifred and Byra here be active in the party as a continuation of our Ravnica campaign, Lone Survivor, L-O-A-N. So you can imagine it, and if you're familiar with the guilds, it has to deal with the Orzhov Syndicate. So we'll be picking up a campaign where Lone Survivor ends, and our party will be our 2 sort of rogue agents of Winifred and Byra, and then our 3 other guild-affiliated adventurers that we'll make. Isn't saying you're Demir for life kind of like breaking the first 2 rules of Fight Club, asks Rytel. Taste the almonds. If I were to play D&D again, says Pneumonica, I'd want to play an evil warlock who, in an act of desperation, made a Faustian bargain with an archangel. Ooh, that could be interesting. Yes, I will give my soul up to the heavens if you'll grant me power today. Okay, race and class. This is gonna be bread and butter for what we do. Building a party. This is going to be good advice. There are ways if you want to randomly determine this. You know, especially if you want to make if you're a DM and you want an NPC party to counteract, you know, some rivals or something. a benevolent party, law and order, a classic party. This is really neat as well. If you want to generate what the common cause is for the party, which you can incorporate as a DM into your storytelling. You know, so you could roll, and I won't apply this to what we're going to be doing, but here, let's roll a d8 and 6. Detente. By order of their guild's leaders, the characters must cooperate to complete a secret mission. A mission. And there's our prompt. That's why our group is going to be getting together. Because in the strife of the guilds, they can work together, but there's also strife. It is very important to ask, why are our characters, especially from different guilds, if you choose to be, why are we getting along and even sharing information? Ooh. Not that. Of course, you can have a one guild party if you want. Okay, races. Humans and elves. They are the same as the player's handbook. We are not going to be rolling humans or elves. I want Ravnica unique races only, okay? So we will roll Centaurs, Goblins, Loxodons, Minotaurs, Simic Hybrids, and Vedalken. Actually, ooh. Elves, Centaurs. Okay, they do have a specific Goblin entry in here. All right, there we go. So I'm not going to worry about humans or elves. They've been done. It does make the point, though, that elves do exist. The drow exist. They're not called drow. There's a particular name for them. It's down here in the elf section. It's not used in Ravnica, but the Devkaren elves are sometimes called the Elves of Shadow, and they're closely connected to the Golgari Swarm. So, bread and butter. Now, the chart that Daly was talking about here is this. What's important to me? If you don't know, if you say, look, I'm new to this, and I don't know, my friend asked me to play in a Ravnica campaign, I don't know. Just take your finger and go through the flow chart. You know, so let's say that you like nature and science. So let's start there, okay? Where would you rather spend your time? In a laboratory or in nature with the growing things? Well, in that case, in the laboratory, yeah. I'm going to play kind of like maybe a mad scientist character. All right, so doing what? We have two options. Am I modifying life forms to suit my vision, or am I tinkering with technological devices? And you say, oh, okay, then I want to tinker with technological devices. So let's follow the flow chart down. Hey, the Is It League. Bada boom. There we go. So from here, you know, explosive science experiments. And what's a favorite way to express yourself? If we want to come around, or in this case, this is actually kind of coming in through a secondary door. But you can follow this and get some ideas about what you'd like to play based on what's the personality, if you're answering the questions in this flowchart. El Eskimo, welcome back. It's good to see you. Funny Dale says, best goblin name, Sneeze a Chew. Detaunt. Detaunt. Thank you, Echo Steel, for that. Detaunt. Funny ass question for a homebrew archetype. Is it a betrayal to the warlock if the patron isn't mysterious and almost all-knowing? I don't think so. I mean, you could play it like look in Warhammer 40,000. A Psyker is a warlock for the Emperor of Mankind. You know, you can maybe even be best friends with your patron. It doesn't have to be mysterious and remote. You're still getting your powers the same way. Play it up to however it's appropriate in your campaign setting. You know, if your patron is Old Man McGillicuddy who lives up on that old house on the hill, maybe you're mysterious, or maybe everyone just knows, you know, oh, it's Old Man McGillicuddy. He owns most of the businesses in town. He makes a lot of contracts with people, and it just so happens you got contracted into his service, and so you know more about him than a lot of other people do. You know, maybe he's your friend, maybe he's not. Or it'd be like, you know, you get hired. You're a private investigator who gets hired by someone. And, you know, the money they give you is what fuels your ability to investigate by, you know, finding out secrets, buying equipment, travel, and all that. So you can even play it up in that way, where your character is some sort of a private investigator, and you are just able to channel the will or intention of the people who hire you. That might even give you a very packed flexibility in a campaign setting, where someone who has a particular mindset comes in and hires you, and you might end up making a fiendish pact with this person as your patron. And so as you investigate what this, you know, because this person has a particular resonance with you or has a personality, and whatever magical contract you've entered into taps into that person, you are simply a conduit for that other person. Yeah, ancient dragons, aboleths. Funny Dill, I definitely have made a character with loved ones. My God, McGillicuddy, that name strikes a chord. What's with you and Old Man McGillicuddy? Sounds like you have a long history with him, given how many times you spoke of him. It shall forever be a mystery. You've had a fruitful night, Derek. I know the feeling. I live in Florida, and this morning I felt like it would have been perfect time to be a turtle, so I can hide myself from the cold. We will come back and reference random height and weight for the specialized Ravnica, the specialized Ravnica races here. All right, here we go. Elves, centaurs. You are medium size. You may be a horse person, or I guess in this case maybe a pony person. You are medium sized though. You are not large. Now, there are large-sized centaurs you can find in the Monster Manual, and you know what? If you talk to your DM, maybe your DM will allow you to be large. Just bear in mind, being a large character can have a significant impact on the way that the game is played, both for and against you. By the book here, by the Ravnica book, you are still a medium-sized creature. Yeah, like a donkey, a pony, something along those lines. Yeah, hey, Derek knows. Yes, El Eskimo. We are exploring Ravnica as a setting, and we're going to be making a Ravnica party. And on Saturday, to wrap everything up, we're going to be making a Ravnica-themed campaign. If we roll it, we'll make it funny. Is this where the Centaur stack comes into play? The Centaur stack? What are you talking about? Is it Tuesday yet? Almost. Every day we're getting closer to Tuesday. Yeah, you take up most of it. And this'll, I mean, so this'll go over what a Ravnica Centaur, you know, would generally think or feel. But hey, your Centaur character could be different. You want to drop it in a homebrew, and suddenly this is, you know, you want to run it around. You want to run around My Little Pony. Do it. You want to run it around A Centaur's Life. I don't know if you've read that manga. A Centaur's Life is, it's a slice of life. Modern, in this case in Japan is where it takes place. Modern day Japan. And what's the practical nature of a Centaurian society? All right, as a Centaur here, your strength score increases by 2 and your wisdom by 1. Let's see. You stand between 6 and 7 feet tall with their equine bodies reaching about 4 feet at the withers. And look at this. Your base speed is 40 feet. Also, bear this in mind. This can be significant. Your creature type is Fey rather than humanoid. It's not just Fey ancestry as per elf. Your creature type is Fey. Can any of you think of where that could have an interesting repercussion? I'll leave that. So I'm offering the class this as a question. Ah. You see where this is an important distinction. Now, just to be sure, we can come over here and make sure that there hasn't been any sort of changes with that as a consideration. Maybe someone could use Find Steed on you. Anyway, so look, I'm not seeing anything different for, if this is alphabetical, there's Hero's Feast. So yeah, hold person, there's no change there. Also, bear this in mind. Let's go to our player's handbook. And in particular, if any of you, I don't know if any of you know where I'm going with this. Turn the Faithless. You can use your channel divinity to utter ancient words that are painful for Fae and fiends to hear. As an action, you present your holy symbol, and for each Fae or fiend within 30 feet of you that can hear you must make a wisdom saving throw. You can accidentally turn the Faithless your Centaur friend. Of course, what if your Centaur is the Paladin? So, just be aware that there are ramifications. You are not humanoid. And that is very, very important. One word can be very important in this case. Centaur monks would be interesting. Parkour, but you have 4 legs. Plus the base 40 speed with all the monk speed on top of that. Go Centaur, like monk barbarian, and just your rainbow dash or whatever, right? You're just like super zooming all around. I think that's the fast one, if I remember correctly. If you're interested in adapting monsters, monstrous races, converts every monster, and oh wow, that is quite the undertaking, Pneumonica, and thank you for making that that option available to us. Teacher, I have a question. I find it disturbing how magical the world of D&D is, and there isn't a stat block for the elusive platypus. Well, I guess it'd be easy to make a platypus monster, depending on if you want to make a monstrous one or go from there. One would assume you're immune to your own ability. I would presume so. But these are questions to ask and make sure you bring up with your DM. Oath of the Ancients is a very cool one. You're a green knight. You're sort of a paladin of nature. Why don't we have Platypus as a monster? It already is one. Can centaurs equip boots of spider climb or any other magic items that require feet? Centaur monk barb hasted with a speed spell. Yeah. Wow, XCat. Yeah. All right. This is going to be what you brought up regarding magic items. This is something you are definitely going to want to bring up with your DM. Okay? You do have hooves. In fact, they're natural melee weapons here. And it does save an equine build. You count as one size larger when you determine your carrying capacity and the weight you can push or drag. In addition, any climb that requires hands and feet is especially difficult for you because of your equine legs. When you make such a climb, each foot of movement costs you 4 extra feet instead of the normal 1. That could be the trade-off. You have enhanced speed, but your boots of striding and springing might have to be made as horseshoes. Or, if your DM won't allow that, maybe your DM will allow horseshoes of the Zephyr. In fact, let's get to that. These iron horseshoes come in a set of 4. While all 4 shoes are affixed to the hooves of a horse or similar creature, they allow the creature to move normally while floating 4 inches above the ground. This effect means the creature can cross or stand above non-solid or unstable surfaces, such as water or lava. The creature leaves no tracks and ignores difficult terrain. In addition, the creature can move at normal speed for up to 12 hours a day without suffering exhaustion from a forced march. Oh, a Skyrim Centaur. Yeah, XCat. They can run backwards over mountains. So this is something to talk about, because remember, magic items have to be worn as they were made. So a pair of boots are made to be a pair of boots, but would that mean that you need 4 boots of striding and springing instead of 2 in order to get the effect? Or can you somehow remake the enchantment, or how would this work? In a world like Ravnica, which is metropolitan, it has all these different races, is there some sort of equality, through law or culture or something, that if you offer boots of striding and springing, you must also offer access to this magical item in the form of horseshoes for a centaur, so that there's equal access to the same products? That's, again, talk to your DM, because that's a very good point to bring up. In this case, because normally you can only ride creatures that are a size category larger, at least one larger than you. Well, here, we have a medium-sized creature, but it is still a horse, and therefore, can you put horseshoes of speed on a centaur and in some sort of a combat saddle? And nope.
Sorry, I can't stay for the whole stream. Peace, everyone, and thanks, Matty.
Oh, Echo, thank you so much. I very much appreciate that. And, well, join us whenever you can. It's great to have all of you around talking, commenting, making jokes and fun points. Echo, you brought up some good ones. Thank you very much, and be well. Oh, and Daly says no one's going to snipe my my health points from me. Bit fight, yeah. Well, Echo Steel kind of went, ow, and Daly went, oh, no, regeneration. Health, glorious health. Equal opportunity in Ravnica. You think our EEOC is aggressive? The Ravnica EEOC is actually armed and will stab you. And you know what? A centaur's life is a very good way of looking at what I guess a modern life would be, because it goes into detail of think about this. What cars would centaurs drive, and how would they look? How would they have safety belts? That manga has that inside of it. Of course, there's other races as well. There's a couple parts in there I'm just going to say they're cultural. So bear that in mind if you're reading it, and certain subjects might be sensitive for you. There's a lot of culture and humanity, such as it is instilled in these various like centaurs and these like bat folk and angel folk and all this other stuff. They talk about things people talk about in real life. And so it can bring up terrorism and religion. It can bring up racism. But there's also a lot of practicality and history about, fighting and war and transportation and all this other stuff. So, you could look into that and maybe adapt it. All right. And Survivor, you have proficiency in one of the following skills: animal handling, medicine, nature, or survival. Oh, Derek, my weakness. No, don't bring up Monster Musume. It's my weakness. I suppose that works too, right? If you want to, with this, we can have a. I mean, look. In that case, why don't we just bust out our Monster Girl encyclopedias and and that's our monster manual from now on. Woo, that completely changes the topic of the game that we'd be playing if that's our monster manual. All right, so goblins. Now, goblins are featured in Volos. Volos? Yeah, I believe Volos. So a lot of this are going to be more the Ravnican variety. As we come down, though, because these are not in the PHB, which is this is presuming you have, they're putting goblin traits here for you. So Dex by 2, Con by 1. They reach adulthood around age 8. Interesting. Let's see. Between 3 and 4 feet tall. They are small, but they scurry. They aren't afflicted with the 25-foot move, or the 25-foot movement. You have dark vision. Fury of the Small. When you damage a creature with an attack or a spell, and the creature's size is larger than yours, you can cause the attack or spell to deal extra damage. The extra damage equals your level. Once you use this trait, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. You can take the disengage or hide action as a bonus action on each of your turns. And you can speak, read and write Common and Goblin. You say that. Well, I'm sure someone has Pneumonica. I mean, it is a monster manual, just without, 5e stats. It's also more than PG-13. So if any of you are like, oh, the Monster Girl Encyclopedia, that sounds awesome. I'm not... Oh, by the way, I saw that I still have my raffle thing up. But we're not having a raffle. I forgot to take that off. I mean, we're past that point anyway, but... Where's my... Bye. Okay. Whoops. And my headset died. Loxodons. They are almost large. They're just right on the edge of large. Con by 2, Wisdom by 1. You're between 7 and 8 feet tall. Powerful build, you count as one size larger. Your base speed is 30 feet. Now, when we went through the UA, I was thinking, I don't know, I think 25 feet would be appropriate for them, because I thought their other abilities were quite strong. And especially given their large size, they would just be large dwarves. They kept it with 30 feet. Is that going to break the game? Maybe not. But I felt putting him down to 25 would have been more thematic and maybe more appropriate. You have advantage on saving throws against being charmed or frightened. You have a natural AC of 12 plus your con modifier, not your dex. Because this is based on how you can just personally tank hits because of your thick skin. So make sure it's 12 plus con modifier. And AC calculations don't stack. Dun, 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 dun. They put this here for a reason. Remember this. You can only use one of them. You can choose one to use. For example, if you have the Loxodon's natural armor trait and the Monk's unarmored defense feature, you don't mix them together. Instead, you choose which one determines your AC. Thank you, Mnemonic. Coffee Cat. Oh, you're going to go to bed? Have a great night, Coffee, and I'll see you later. I was showing off your sketches earlier. Oh, hey, 506. Hello. I'm sorry, I just saw that up in chat there, and so hello. Thanks for the wave. Hey. Wasn't that the rooster's name in well, I'm derping on the name. Shame on me. Moana? I think that was the... Hey, I think was the rooster. Let's see what else here. You have advantage on saving throws against being turned frightened. Oh, that was natural armor. Trunk. You can grasp things with your trunk, and you can use it as a snorkel. It has a reach of 5 feet, and it can lift a number of pounds equal to 5 times your strength score. You can use it to do the following simple tasks. Lift, drop, hold, push, or pull an object or a creature, open or close a door or a container, grapple someone, or make an unarmed strike. Your DM might allow other simple tasks to be added to that list of options. Your trunk can't wield weapons or shields or do anything that requires manual precision, such as using tools or magic items or performing the somatic components of a spell. Keen Smell. You have advantages on Wisdom Perception, Wisdom Survival, and Intelligence Investigation checks that involve smell. Now, when the boys over at D&D Time were reviewing the races here, I know that that Jeremy thought that this was... no, Pouty, I'm waiting for him to come in. That this is very odd or specific, and he brought up the good point that, look, if you're playing a Loxodon character, you are going to want to use this racial feature. And as a DM, you should be ready, if you have a Loxodon character, to be able to describe the events of your game with smell in consideration, since you're going to have this elephant bloodhound that's going to be sniffing around and using their racial abilities. It can be fun. It can add a big layer of investigation and... you know, it could even modify a chase or something along those lines. And I think you can have a lot of fun with it. But make sure you are prepared as a DM to account for the fact that this racial feature exists. And you are going to be needing to think about the smells that a character can encounter. Yep, Derek, that's... When I get him in, we'll pop him open, and even if we beat the photo site to it, I don't know if we will, but we'll see. All right, Minotaurs. You are still medium, though there is in the monster manual, like, you know, bigger cousins. Your strength increases by 2, and your con increases by 1. Your speed is 30 feet. Horns. Your horns are natural melee weapons, which you can use to make unarmed strikes. Goring Rush. Immediately after you use the dash action on your turn, and you move at least 20 feet, you can make 1 melee attack with your horns as a bonus action. So you can move, action dash, bonus action, use your horns. So even if you can't swing on a normal action. Hammering Horns. Immediately after you hit a creature with a melee attack as part of the attack action on your turn. So, not the Goring Rush, the attack action. You can use a bonus action to attempt to shove that target with your horns. The target must be no more than 1 size larger than you and within 5 feet of you, unless it succeeds on a strength saving throw. 8 plus proficiency plus strength. You have proficiency in one of the following: Intimidation or Persuasion. As you can see, now it doesn't talk about this like it does with the Centaurs. However, the art features your character having hooves. This could be backup in the Ravnica world for why, you know, why you would actually want to make horseshoe versions of boots. Because, well, Centaurs are going to need 4. Minotaurs also have hooves. So you as a DM, again, consider, am I just going to interchange boots with horseshoes or the like? Or is it even something different? Is there like a Minotaur, some sort of special Minotaur boot that would fit? But this is the second race here that has hooves instead of traditional feet, humanoid feet. Simic Hybrid, you are just that. You are an amalgamation of a lot of different things. Humans, elves, and Vedalken. And also various sea creatures. Well, they tend to be. No, Roxy, you did not miss a raffle. I just accidentally didn't turn that off because last Wednesday when I broadcast, we had a raffle. And this is my first broadcast after that, and I forgot to turn that off, so you didn't miss anything. XCat says, my GM so far has been ruling smell can only be used if it makes sense. Like, not just being able to sniff out a room without having something to sniff for kind of a thing. Well, yeah, I mean, just because you smell leather, well, there's a lot of people who wear leather. So if you want to compare it, I mean, you could just make a blanket statement, you smell leather. Maybe you do. Maybe, I mean, not all leather has to smell. But you might actually have to have a sample, kind of like a bloodhound, right? You have a piece of clothing from the escaped prisoner, and you hold it to the bloodhound so that they can compare it. They can compare the rag or the clothing to the trail they're trying to find. I'll be honest, I'm seriously hoping Mad Mage has the Obelix model. Oh, ooh, that would be a good place for it. It has flumps. El Eskimo, and you'd also have to take into consideration that they won't be able to put them on themselves. Can't be like, oh, I just found these shiny shoes. Oh, yeah. So they might need to. I mean, if they're having to tack it in, you know, it might require someone else. You know, if you grow up that way, I don't know. Maybe you're used to it. It could be a racial consideration. All right, con score by 2. And one other ability score of your choice by 1, because look, human, elf, half-elf in a way, or Vedalken, there's a lot of different scores. So it's going to depend on your origin as a Simic Hybrid. Size is medium, and you are still a humanoid. Base speed of 30. You have dark vision. Animal enhancement. Your body has been altered to incorporate certain animal characteristics. You choose one animal enhancement now and a second enhancement at 5th level. At 1st level, choose one of the following options. Manta Glide, Nimble Climber, and Underwater Adaptation. For the Vedalken, or not the Vedalken, the Simic Hybrid we made last time, we ended up giving her Manta Glide and the Acid Spit. Bear in mind that just like with the trunk and using smell, you may have a character that takes Manta Glide because they want to use it. Now look, Ravnica is it's Coruscant in Star Wars terms. It's a planet-wide city. There's going to be plenty, or Sharn in Eberron. Very vertical, plenty of opportunities to use this. So make sure you're prepared as a DM if you're allowing this race, that your player is going to want to use this as a racial ability. At 5th level, you continue to adapt. Oh, wouldn't that be cool if you ran a Simic Hybrid Totem Barbarian? You're already getting that fat +2 Constitution. But, you know, you're becoming, or even, this would also make a really cool Warlock. You know, where you're taking on a manifestation of your patron in some way. I mean, the con, yeah, everyone can use con, but that one other of your choice means you could put it over into charisma if you want. So, like a totem barbarian or some kind of a warlock, especially like a great old one warlock, that would be really interesting, right? Your body is growing and adapting over time with this. All right, so at 5th level, you can get grappling appendages. Now, this is something, again, as a DM, make sure you're aware of how these rules work. And I know that this, I think this got Jeremy a little upset too, because grappling can be a powerful force in combat. You have 2 special appendages growing alongside your arms. Choose whether they're both claws or tentacles. As an action, you can use one of them to try and grapple a creature. Each one is also a natural weapon which you can use to make an unarmed strike. If you hit with it, the target takes bludgeoning damage equal to 1d6 plus your strength modifier, instead of the bludgeoning damage normal to an unarmed strike. Immediately after hitting, you can try to grapple the target as a bonus action. These appendages can't precisely manipulate anything and can't wield weapons, magic items, or other specialized equipment. Yeah, Derek, they are built to be very flexible. Your skin in places is covered by a thick shell. You gain a +1 bonus to AC when you're not wearing heavy armor, and acid spit. As an action, you can spray acid from glands in your mouth, targeting one creature or objet you can see within 30 feet of you. The target takes 2d10 acid damage. So this is, dragon breath weapons they can be an AoE. It's a line or a cone. This is just your snipe. You're gleeking onto people with your poison sacks. Target takes 2d10 acid damage unless it succeeds on a dex saving throw. Based on the draconic breath weapon. You can use this as a trade number of times equal to your constitution modifier, and you regain all expended uses of it when you finish a long rest. Now, beware, as a DM, if you have a character that can just produce acid from their mouth, that can be used in roleplay to a great deal. The character is captured by bandits and tied up. The character just looks down and goes, patooey. Acid might burn through the ropes. And you might not have thought of that as a DM, but your player character who has this as an ability is going to be looking for ways to use the acid in and out of combat. So make sure you adapt to this, or you take that into consideration, that any of these hybrids might, and as a player character too, by the way, bear that in mind. An NPC, a villain, someone in a fight, might just be spitting on you. XCat says, one would think an advanced culture of hooved people would have shoes they can just step on to equip them and have a thing to put down to take off. If you want to design it, I guess we can imagine some sort of a clamp or something. Kind of like a bear trap, except it doesn't, wreck your leg. But hey, that, if you like coming up with concepts, XCat, that would be really cool if you designed it and put it out there. You can put your tag on it, of course. But, here's a concept of a self-attaching horseshoe, or a Minotaur boot, or whatever you want to call it. A hoof clamp, I don't know. I'm sure we can come up with some fun name for it. Either that, or maybe as a society they just develop Velcro, and so you could just Velcro your shoes in a pinch, right? Just nice and easy. And Vedalken. Vedalken are Vulcans, if you're familiar with Star Trek. It's a good way of putting it in summary. Again, each of these has a big cultural blurb. And I'm not skipping over it to just skip over it or that it's uninteresting. It is interesting. For what we're doing, we're not going to make necessarily a classic Vedalken. Our Vedalken is going to be a unique person that is going to be drawn into an adventure for his or her own reasons if we roll a Vedalken. Actually, non-metal horseshoes that cover the entire hoof and strap on. Well, as long as it's durable enough that, because that's a lot of weight and it'll be taking a pounding. That's going to chew through leather really quick. Intelligence by 2, wisdom by 1. Very natural casting class, but that's as per even magic. Lots of wizards. Lots of wizards. Tall and slender. Speed is 30 feet. You have advantage on all intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. Now, I want to compare that. It seems strong. However, if I recall correctly, gnomes have something similar. Yes, rock gnomes. Or, I'm sorry, no, just gnomes. Gnome cunning. You have advantage on all wisdom, intelligence, and charisma saving throws against magic. Ah, alright. So this one doesn't specify magic, though I imagine... Well, what would cause... So, either this is... It could be an oversight still, or what would cause the disclusion of against magic for the Vedalken? I'm not sure what would cause a saving throw that's not magical. Unless maybe it was some sort of a poison effect that was more of a hallucinogen than like a constitution poison. So I guess maybe in that case, if you wanted to try and have them hallucinate through a biological means, they could get advantage where a gnome wouldn't be able to. Over here for gnomes, you have advantage on all intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws against magic. And you know what? Hey, we have some errata. We can even double check and make sure. Make sure something hasn't changed for the gnomes. Races, let's see. Dwarven combat training, drow magic, infernal legacy. No. So nothing's been changed for the errata for gnomes. So in this case, I guess Vedalken, if you can cause something that's non-magical, they would have advantage. But I would imagine that most of the overlap is going to be against magical effects. So for the most part, this is going to be equivalent to the gnome racial ability. You're proficient in the following skills of your choice: Arcana, History, Investigation, Medicine, Performance, Sleight of Hand. Woo! You are also proficient with one tool of your choice. Whenever you make an ability check with the chosen skill or tool, roll a d4 and add the number rolled to the check's total. So it's like a built-in bless. Make sure, as a PC, you note that somewhere. This is kind of a... I mean, I don't want to say it's complicated, because it's a built-in effect that can already occur. But make sure that you're aware of that. And as a DM, remember that you could have characters that are going to be super-duper good. Especially because this is an untyped bonus that could very well stack with something like Bless. So you will have... let's say that you took Arcana. Right? You're already smart. Maybe you're running a wizard. So you have a high intelligence character with proficiency in Arcana. And on top of that, they're going to get the D4, and they might just get blessed. Or it's the knowledge cleric that's probably still high intelligence and effectively gets expertise with Arcana and a D4 and can bless on top of it. Woo! There are Battlemaster fighter abilities that call for wisdom. Oh, thank you for bringing that up, Rytel. That would be worth taking a look at real quick. Fighter maneuvers. Let's see. Do you have those handy? Or, here we go. Goading attack. You add the superiority die to the attack's damage roll, and the target must make a wisdom saving throw. All right, so there we go on goading attack. Menacing attack is a wisdom saving throw for frightening, or to frighten. Unless I skipped over when I'm seeing those two. So you know what? That's a good point, Rytel. I mean, it's not like fighters aren't common, or especially a battle master. Ooh. Good point. Thank you for that. And they probably put that in there because the Vedalken are supposed to be like Vulcans, where they're just very neutral. They're not necessarily emotional. And so it doesn't just have to be magical. They just are very calm and carry themselves in a resolute manner through not just magic, but even physical provocation. In that case, I don't know, maybe an intimidation of some kind. They might be resistant to intimidation. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. It's even in there. Vedalken Dispassion. Read the book. It's right in front of you. It is, too. They are partially amphibious. By absorbing oxygen through your skin, you can breathe underwater for up to an hour. Once you've reached the limit, you can't use this trait again until you finish a long rest. That could be cool. Ravnica may cover the planet, but there's a lot of water to explore. And now it just says underwater. If you are going to run this as a game, remember, if you want to limit it to just fresh water or salt water or both or whatever, have that conversation with your players. If you're going to send, we may not want to think about it, but let's say you send your players into the sewers. Can your Vedalken breathe sewer water? How cloudy or impure does the water have to be? These are roleplay considerations. I don't know if a Vedalken would ever want to breathe poo water. But you know what? Any port in a storm, if you have to hide, and you can do it, you may be dispassionate. Doesn't mean you don't have to like it. Yeah, they might get sick. Maybe, you inflicted disease 100% because of the innate nature. But that's something to think about. When does something count as water and not mud? Do you bring it right up to 5149? Something to think about. Although, this would be very interesting for espionage or the like, because you can hide in a barrel of water. Or even another substance. I don't know if wine could work. Even if maybe it's really watered down, and maybe you get... And you know what? They are partially amphibious. If they can absorb this, it doesn't say mechanically, and be careful if you're a DM. It doesn't say mechanically, but does that mean that they're more prone to contact poisons because their skin does soak in things very easily? Mechanically in the book, it doesn't say that happens. If you are going to impose that, or if you're going to consider it, talk to your players first so that they understand, yes, this is a benefit that is given to you regarding water breathing. However, there may be chances where you're exposed to poison or toxins or something that may seep in through your pores more easily because you are partially amphibious. Communication. I mean, we can imagine that XCat, but I can equally imagine that's not the case too. And so that's why it's important to talk about the expectations you have as a DM or a PC at the table. Because I'll tell you, I don't consciously close my pores if I'm, sweating or, if something happens. And, it doesn't have to be, maybe it's a sympathetic reaction of some kind. But with roleplay doors being opened like they are with trunks and hooves and all this other stuff, you have to be willing to tackle these issues as they come up. Whether it's ad hoc at your table on the fly, or you sit down with your players and say, all right, here's our we're going to play Ravnica. Everyone, here's the information. Let's set some base rules down. that may not be specifically brought up in this. Because keep in mind, too, there's water that has little to no oxygen inside of it. So unless you're doing something to create, you know, some electrolysis to create oxygen in the water, you are going to, you know, maybe you can't breathe in stagnant water. Or in, I mean, I'll say depleted. I know there's a scientific term for water that doesn't have oxygen, a high oxygen count. It's not oxygenated. And oxidized? That's gonna bug me. I know it exists. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. Just be ready to talk about this stuff. Alright, classes by guild. It's good to get into if you want to be super thematic. Is it something we're going to stick to? Not necessarily. Yeah, there's a specific name for like pools of water and such that don't have oxygen in it. In fact, there's an area next to where I live. It's called the Blue Hole. And it is it's an exposed, like an underground river that has, maybe it was like a sinkhole or something at the time. And you look into it and the water is crystal clear. It's like a pure blue. It's magnificent and wonderful. Nothing lives in it. There's no fish or anything because, the water is depleted of oxygen. So it's just a pool of water. I mean, you could drink it. It's not gonna like kill you. It's fresh water, but things that require absorbing oxygen can't live in it because there's just no oxygen churning around in it. Anoxic water. Thank you, Pneumonica. Deoxygenated. Now there are roleplay, tips here for. Sorcerers, Ravnica sorcerers usually attribute their magical power not to bloodlines or cosmic forces, but to laboratory experiments. So here, and by the way, this does reference Xanathar's guide. Do you have to have it to play Ravnica? No, but if you do have Xanathar's and Ravnica, we can pineapple pen them together. So, Divine Soul, these are recommendations. Warlocks. In a handful of guilds, service to a powerful individual is common among warlocks. Warlocks are most often found in the cult of Rakdos and the Celestia Conclave. Members of any guild who delve too deeply into forbidden secrets, perhaps at the behest of their guild's leaders, or sometimes in defiance of them, might unearth the lore regarding the old gods of Ravnica. These mysterious beings called the Nephilim, which there are cards about the Nephilim in Magic. It is a part of the lore of Ravnica. Grant warlocks the mysterious and maddening powers of the Great Old One. And it does mention that the Celestial Pact does exist. That the Boros, you're probably in service to an angel. Wizards, and so it's giving you some good Ravnican flavor here. All right, let's explore. Before we take a break, let's go over the two subclasses that exist: the Order Domain and the Circle of Spores Druid. The Order Domain represents discipline, as well as devotion to a society or an instruction and strict obedience to the laws governing it. On Ravnica, the domain is favored by clerics of the Azorius Senate, who use it to maintain and enforce the laws, and of the Orzhov Syndicate, who exploit law in order for their personal gain. On other worlds, gods who grant access to this domain include Bane, Tyr, Magir, Arathis, Foltus, Ouijas, Orion, Maglubiet, Nuada, Athena, Anubis, Forseti, and Asmodeus. Daniel, I got my min. All right, thanks. Oh, your minis? The ideal of order is obedience to the law above all else, rather than to a specific individual or the passing influence of emotion or popular rule. Clerics of the order are typically concerned with how things are done rather than whether and actions results are just. So, the means are more important than the end. This is the philosophy of deontology versus what's the opposing? I'll have to look that up during the break. Mini, okay. Well, I'm glad everything is in order for you, Daniel. Law establishes hierarchies. Those selected by the law to lead must be obeyed. Those who obey must also do the best of their ability. In this manner, law creates an intricate web of obligations that allow society to forge, pardon the hiccup, order and security in a chaotic multiverse. Your domain spells. We're going to get Command in Heroism, Hold Person in Zone of Truth, Mass Healing Word and Slow, Compulsion, Locate Creature, Commune, and Dominate Person. All right, XCat, no problem. I think all of those spells are in order with order. We are going to get proficiency with heavy armor. You also gain proficiency with the intimidation or persuasion skill, your choice. So we're still stuck with simple weapons, but we can wear heavy armor. Voice of Authority. Starting at first level, you can invoke the power of law to drive an ally to attack. If you cast a spell with a spell slot of first level or higher and target an ally with the spell, that ally can use their reaction immediately after the spell to make one weapon attack against a creature of your choice that you can see. If the spell targets more than one ally, you can choose the ally to make that attack. So, you have a frontline barbarian who's taking damage. Not only can you heal your barbarian can get a, well, kind of a free swing, right? If they use their reaction. Channel Divinity, Orders Demand. Starting at second level, you can use your Channel Divinity to exert an intimidating presence over others. As an action, you present your holy symbol, and each creature of your choice that can see or hear you within 30 feet of you must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or be charmed by you until the end of your next turn, or until the charmed creature takes any damage. You can also cause any of the charmed creatures to drop what they're holding when they fail a saving throw. Now notice, this is a creature, so they can affect centaurs, being fey, as centaurs are still creatures. And I guess that would make sense, right? If you have a society and you have a race that might be able to defy even some of the other spells because of their nature. You're gonna make my next character one of the elephant race and name him Fredburger. I'm sorry if I'm missing a, is that like a Five Nights at Freddy's reference? Embodiment of the Law. At 6th level, you become remarkably adept at channeling magical energy to compel others. If you cast a spell of the enchantment school using a spell slot of 1st level or higher, you can change the spell's casting time to one bonus action for this casting, provided the spell's casting time is normally one action. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, and you regain all expended uses of it when you finish a long rest. That can be really, really good. Hey, Plunder Loot, welcome. Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Oh, all right, I remember the cartoon, but yeah, it wasn't just immediate for me. I'm sorry, Daniel. Divine Strike. Well, you are a melee cleric. That makes sense. You can swing instead of get the extra damage on spells. And Order's Wrath. Starting at 17th level. Remember, 17th in 5th edition is technically epic level. Enemies you designate for destruction wilt under the combined efforts of you and your allies. If you deal your Divine Strike damage to a creature on your turn, you can curse that creature until the start of your next turn. The next time one of your allies hits the cursed creature with an attack, The Target also takes 2d8 psychic damage, and the curse ends. You can curse a creature this way once per turn. So you can float an extra 2d8 psychic damage, which not a lot has resistance to. Now, the Circle of Spores Druid, which is kind of like a Necromancer Druid. The Circle of Spores find beauty in decay. They see within mold and other fungi the ability to transform lifeless material into abundant, albeit somewhat strange life. These druids believe that life and death are parts of a grand cycle, with one leading to the other and then back again. Death isn't the end of life, but instead a change of state that sees life shift into a new form. Druids of the Circle have a complex relationship with the undead. Unlike most other druids, they see nothing inherently wrong with undeath, which they consider to be a companion to life and death. But these druids believe that the natural cycle is healthiest when each segment of it is vibrant and changing. Undead that seek to replace all life with undeath, or that try to avoid passing to a final rest, violate that cycle and must be thwarted. So you'll get your circle spells, Halo of Spores. We'll get into this. All right, your circle spells. Your symbiotic link to fungus and your ability to tap into the cycle of life and death grants you access to certain spells. At 2nd level, you learn the Chill Touch cantrip. At 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 9th, you gain access to the spells listed for that level in the Circle of Spores spells table. Once you gain access to one of these spells, you always have it prepared, and it doesn't count against the number. So it's like it's a Circle of the Land extension in a way. I can see that too, Plunder. So this is what you get: blindness, deafness, and gentle repose. Animate dead as a, isn't that interesting, right? As a druid. You have all the other druid spells. This is what your circle provides you. Animate dead in gaseous form. Blight and confusion. Cloud kill and contagion. Which, by the way, seeing contagion, that has changed slightly here. The last sentence of the first paragraph now reads, on a hit, the target is poisoned. The second paragraph now reads, at the end of each of the poisoned target's turns, the target must make a Constitution saving throw. If the target succeeds on 3 of these saves, it is no longer poisoned and the spell ends. If the target fails 3 of these saves, the target is no longer poisoned, but chooses one of the diseases below. The target is subjected to the chosen disease for the spell's duration. So bear that in mind as we're having kind of a crossover. PHB Errata with Ravnica stuff. Halo of Spores. Starting at 2nd level, you are surrounded by invisible necrotic spores that are harmless until you unleash them on a creature nearby. When a creature you can see moves to a space within 10 feet of you, or starts its turn there, you can use your reaction to deal 1d4 necrotic damage to that creature unless it succeeds on a Constitution saving throw against your spell save DC. The necrotic damage increases to 1d6, etc., so forth. Symbiotic Entity. At 2nd level, you gain the ability to channel magic into your spores. As an action, you can expend a use of your wild shape feature to awaken those spores, rather than transforming into beast form. And you gain 4 temporary hit points for each level you have in this class. While this feature is active, you gain the following benefits. When you deal your Halo of Spores damage, roll the damage die a second time and add it to the total. And your melee weapon attack deals an extra 1d6 poison damage to any target hit. These benefits last for 10 minutes until you lose all these temporary hit points or until you use your wild shape again. And here's a nice... I really like this picture of a Circle of Spores druid here. Another rule tip, temporary hit points don't stack, and that is true. Fungal infestation. At 6th level, your spores gain the ability to infest a corpse and animate it. If a beast or humanoid, so not a centaur, technically, a small or medium dies within 10 feet of you, you can use your reaction to animate it, causing it to stand up immediately with 1 hit point. The creature uses the zombie stat block in the monster manual. It remains animate for 1 hour, after which time it collapses and dies. In combat, the zombie's turn comes immediately after yours. It obeys your mental commands, and the only action it can take is the attack action, making 1 melee attack. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, and you regain all expended uses of it when you finish a long rest. Necromancer Druid. Spreading Spores. At 10th level, you gain the ability to seed an area with deadly spores. As a bonus action, while your symbiotic entity feature is active, you can hurl spores up to 30 feet away, where they swirl in a 10-foot cube for 1 minute. The spores disappear early if you use this feature again, if you dismiss them as a bonus action, or if your symbiotic entity feature is no longer active. Now, as a DM, you can make a judgment call here. If this is just a swirling, if these are swirling spores, could this be treated like a fog cloud, and could a stiff enough wind or rain or something dampen it? Bear in mind, if you make decisions on those, that can have ramifications on this class. I'm bringing this up not to seed the chaos into games, but because this might come up at your tabletop. If you're fighting on the top of a building and there's a really strong wind blowing, are you going to go by rules as written, which do not intrinsically note that the spores can be blown away, or are you going to interpret rules as intended, where it is just a cloud spore that's settled on an area and that can get blown away in a circumstance similar to fog or an ever-smoking bottle or conditions similar? Bear that in mind. Another thing to just stop and consider, if you're going to incorporate this option into your game, because this might come up. Can the spores be used underwater? Right? We've talked about a lot of underwater features. Nothing as it's written here says that it can't be used underwater. But is the practicality there, where you can have a bunch of airborne spores act the same way underwater? Think about it. Talk to your DM as a PC. Talk to your PC as a DM. Hash this out beforehand. And as a DM, if you're willing to take, also be willing to give. I don't believe in forced balance. Everything has to be 50-50, equal black, equal white, and kind of the tier of things that, in my opinion, Star Wars has gone on to, where everything has to be balanced and everything doesn't have to be balanced, my opinion. But if you're going to take away some situations where this class, it doesn't specifically say it can't, but you're ruling it can't, be willing to consider opening up opportunities that also are not necessarily written, or to allow for the creative use of those abilities in special circumstances. It could be possible. I mean, look, it could be, instead of spores, they're like plankton, or I guess phytoplankton. Maybe it could be described as that, but these are conversations to have in order to clarify what happens. Fungal body. At 14th level, the fungal spores in your body alter you. You can't be blinded, deafened, frightened, or poisoned. And any critical hit against you counts as a normal hit instead, unless you're incapacitated. How about that? Right? Actually, that process seems to have been taken over this druid here. Because if you look, it's kind of like creeping up her. It's creeping up her body, but you can see where she's like, her body's just sort of taken on, like she's a host to the fungus here, and it's starting to change her in some way. But isn't this something, right? You can't be blinded, deafened, frightened, or poisoned, and any critical hit counts as a normal hit instead. Okay, Guilds of Ravnica, I'm not going to get into here. We're going to take about a 10-minute break, and we'll come back and let's make a character. We'll randomly roll a guild, and we'll explore that particular guild, as we are going to be including its background on the character. There are fungi that live in water. Look at yeast. That's what creates alcohol and lives in water. Yeah, please don't think that I'm arguing that fungus can't live in water or something along those lines. When it's talking about how we may normally conceptualize spores floating around us on the air, like as a mushroom releases spores normally, a question can come up of, will it work underwater? Because water is... It may not be a popular campaign destination. It seems to be popular in Ravnica. It considers a lot of aquatic options. But again, have these conversations. Yeah. No, I'm not saying that you're accusing me of anything, Plunder Loot. I just want to make sure that I'm not sowing the seeds of dissent and chaos here by hinting. Come on, wizards, what are you doing? It should be illegal. It could very well be. Plankton exists. Yeast exists, and yeast is a fungus. So. You're making very good points, and this is stuff to bring up. All right, so let's take about a 10-minute break, everyone, and when we come back, let's gen up a character. We'll have some fun, we'll explore Ravnica by just... You want to learn how to swim? Jump in the water.